Hello, hello, and welcome to another live coaching. I'm in Europe. I'm in Germany. I'm in Hamburg, no longer on Maui. Had a good week before I left, had some time on the water, and now I'm in Europe for the spring and summer. I have some commitments here, and I picked up a little bug on the plane. I've got a bit of a head cold. So I'm going to keep this live stream on the shorter side. We're going to run through the Facebook group and the questions that were asked and then go from there. The other thing I noticed is that 9 o'clock is a bit on the later side right now for this time in Europe. So I'm thinking of switching to 8 p.m. European summertime. I've done that before in previous years where we go a little bit earlier. So I think that'll be a bit easier. All right. I'm going to load up the Facebook group. Like I said, I flew over to Europe between when we last saw each other, and I picked up a bit of a cold. So I'm feeling a little under the weather. We got Axel in the chat. Hello, Axel. All right. I'm going to run through the Facebook group and get some bed. Hope to feel better in the morning. All right, so we got a post from Jeff. He opened up his season with a Windsurf session. Cool. Love it. Love the post from Jeff. Jeff has been an active member in our community since the beginning, I think. And I saw him on Maui last fall, and it was awesome to see the progress in his wave sailing. I was jumping up and down on the beach with excitement. We got Jorg in the chat. Hello, Jorg. Some freestyle. Awesome. All right, so questions. So Matt wants to know how to set up his to curve for the light wind days. It feels like it gets stuck. Yeah, that's a good question. And other people with a 96 to curve can jump in as well. Oh, we got Suna in the chat. Hello, Suna. 2 good sessions. Awesome. So for setting up the light wind 96 to curve, I think you want to have the sail rigged pretty full, or at least that's how I like it. I set up my foot straps and my fins similar to how I set up the 88. So I'm pretty far back. So I'll set up the back foot strap either all the way on the back strap or the back hole or the second to last hole. Now, if you're doing that and it still feels like the board is slow, like it's pushing water, you might want to move a little bit farther forward on the board. Another thing you can try is moving the mast track a little bit farther forward, and that can help keep the nose down, get it planing a little bit earlier. That can help with the speed. We got Axel as well in Hamburg, Moin Moin, and Matt as well joining us from the UK. So those are the 2 things that I would try for the 96. But post a picture, post a photo so we can see your fins, straps, and mast track. And you also want to make sure that the sail is full enough. All right, we got Michael. So he's saying the same question as Kevin. So let's read Kevin's question. He says we looked at a couple of his waves last week, talked about a few things, stance, pushing the sail, all this stuff. And he had a nice session, but found it really difficult to focus on everything. So what's the best strategy? Although he felt like the bottom trims were better. Yes, it is impossible to focus on many things. Focus on the 1 or 2 that resonate most with you. So when I'm giving this coaching and I'm saying 100 different things, focus on 1 of them or 2 of them. It's good to let it wash over you so they're all in there somewhere. But then when you're actively working on the water, focus on just 1 thing. And I like to work with key images. So I have 1 clear image or motion that I'm focusing on, and that's like the key image. So it could be moving the sail across the body in the tack, or it could be pushing the sail towards the nose in the shove it, or it could be anything, getting low before you go in the bottom turn. And you're just focusing on that one very clear image. Um, I find that really helpful. And I make notes to myself. So I'll send myself emails of different things like get low before you go, grip wide, all kinds of different things in order to help remind myself. And having these little reminders, I find really useful. You could put post-it notes in your car on the steering wheel. I'm a big fan. Like I've always got my phone with me, so I'll write myself an email and then set it so that it's sent to myself at a scheduled time or snoozed, so it pops up before my session. Little things like that, I find it really useful because it is hard to remember. It is really hard to remember all these different things. You can break up your session too. I think once you get more comfortable with working on things on the water, you can say, okay, the first part of the session, I'm going to work on getting low before I go. The next part of the session, I'm going to work on whatever it is, U-shaped bottom turns, rotating the hips. But yeah, working on one, two things at a time. Also, something that can be helpful, and this is something that comes up in our in-person masterclass, is once you get a little bit more advanced, you can start working on sequences. And this comes from Jakob in our Denmark masterclass, where he equated what we were doing to katas from karate, where you're putting a sequence of maneuvers together and training those. And I really like that concept. And so you can think about training sequences or katas. And so, like, you have a setup protocol for your bottom turn, and you're doing four different things in that protocol, but you're thinking of it as a single protocol, which is then easier to remember than remembering four separate things. So I think in the beginning, you are focusing on one thing at a time. As you get more comfortable with working on different things on the water, you can work on katas or sequences or setup protocols. Um, yeah. Another thing that I found is that it's easier to think of concepts. So thinking of the high five, which is more of a concept, or it's easier to think of technique that happens before the action. So setting up the bottom turn, going off the ramp for the jump. And then there's a lot more ability to focus on something technical instead of in the middle of the action. So that's why a lot of my coaching is about concepts and it's about setup, because those are, I think, where we can really influence what's happening on the water. Of course, it is important also to think about in the middle of the action, but it's a lot more difficult to actually make something happen in the middle of the action. All right, we got Ragnar in the chat. Hello, hello, hello. Forward loop training in the gym. Awesome. We got Harold, nothing happening. But Harold, knowing you, I am sure that you're up to something fun. Maybe skateboarding. All right. So Michael says he doesn't get the waves as quickly as he'd like, very close to the ocean, and tends to improve backhand movement, stance, pushing the sail. Yeah, cool. This sounds like it's working. Um, Sounds like you are improving. I would say if you're not getting on the water as much as you'd like, what is one thing you could do to get on the water more? So is it having the car packed and ready to go so that you can go on more mediocre forecasts? That would be one thing. And you can come up with some other ideas. All right, Derek says he wants to know about drone setups. So he asked about Paul Van Bellen, and I actually sent Paul a WhatsApp, but he hasn't responded. He hasn't even opened it. He hasn't even received it. I've got one check mark. So, yeah. But otherwise, we have a few comments here about drone setups. I'm not familiar about drone setups, so I will respond with what Paul says. All right, Jan is coming, and he's got a more entry-level setup. I love this. I think this is so cool. Instead of being defeatist and thinking, oh, I'm injured, I can't get on the water. He's bought this setup, he's doing non-planing tricks. I love it. Great, great attitude. All right, so we've got a question from Derek again. He says he's enjoyed the live coaching. He's going to the gorge for 9 days, but tore his ACL. Oh no. A good recommendation for what physical therapy program to use. Um, ouch. Okay. So I was really happy with Deep to Peak on Maui for their rehab when I did my knee a few years ago. Um, so I think you can get on the water sooner, or maybe not get on the water, but return to sport sooner. Um, Interesting. So Jeff is kind of saying the opposite of what I've heard, and I would trust Jeff. This is his area of expertise, but I've heard a lot about pushing it, and some of my friends um, about what they've done, but my friends are also pro athletes, so they're training very hard and working with coaches pretty full on, and so if you're not putting in the time in the physical therapy, then you're not going to be able to get on the water as quickly. So I'm asking a buddy of mine, what was your process for ACL recovery? How long before you were back on the water? All right, so I'm going to ask a few friends that and see what they say. Um, when I did my knee, so I didn't do my ACL, I did MCL, I had a meniscus tear, tibial plateau fracture, PCL, and I was back on the water after 6 months. And I did very intense physical therapy. It was really good. Yeah, and I was back on the water, but I didn't quite feel fully confident for another 2 months after that. So we got Mike. Hello, Mike. All right, guys. Like I said, I picked up a cold on the plane, so we've pushed through the Facebook group. I'm going to call it a day. Um, but now I'm in Europe. I've got less time to be on the water myself on Maui. It was pretty busy. So I'm going to be spending more time on the Facebook group and the coaching. And yeah, if you've got any questions, concerns, comments, put it in the Facebook group. I've got time. I'm curious. I want to be more involved, get the community really going. I noticed it's gotten a little bit slower. Oh, we got Danielle in the chat. I didn't see a hello. And yeah, I love this community to stay strong and vibrant. So if you have a question or if you know someone that could benefit from the community, encourage that discussion. I will see you next week, Sunday. I'm going to get some sleep. Like I said, just got back to Europe, still getting over the jet lag. And I'm not sure if I'm going to get on the water in the next few weeks, but uh, definitely will be looking forward to getting on the water at some point this spring. All right, everyone, I'm going to sign off. Take care. See you next week. Bye.